Happy Thursday, everyone. Winter is coming. It's a very cold, windy day today. So, in the past few days, you probably hear about the news that Jeff Bezos and his wife, Mackenzie, getting divorced after 25 years. And this is a shocking news, right? And when I first read it on Facebook, I was like, I cannot believe it. Because I read some story about Jeff. This is the CEO of Amazon, right? The richest man in the world. Richer than Bill Gates. Like, I think right now it's like $22 billion. Richer than Bill Gates. And he's on the story that I read in the past, right? He would be the guy who spend time with his family. In the morning, he don't have any early morning meeting. He would cook for his family. He would wash dishes for his wife. Eat breakfast with his children. It seemed like he got a perfect husband. And that's the image that, everyone, I think like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, he's my idol, right? And he still is, to have the ability to lead a company, coming from very humble beginning. Now it's just like one of the biggest company in the United States, almost like $1 trillion company. And what's shocking is that people trying to portray him to be a perfect person, and I think that's wrong. And when the news that his wife wanted a divorce, I thought that maybe that they how rich people now they have a lot of money. They were thinking about getting divorced so that they can marry someone else better, right? But from the story that I read, I don't know if it's true or not. Jeff has been cheating on his wife for at least like 8 months to a year, right? And this ongoing. I'm not sure if his wife was aware of it in the past or she just found out recently. And the image of like a perfect husband, I think is wrong to portray him that way, because I think everyone have shortcoming, and especially if someone is very successful. They must have some type of shortcoming or something about them that's not perfect. And if we try to portray that person to be perfect, you're gonna be disappointed. And for me, when I read the news, I'm very shocked because the image that his image appeared to be perfect. He would send gift to his wife when he was on he was on his trip, business trip, sending surprise gift, flowers to his wife, and his wife liked to write novels, so he would read her draft, spend more time doing that when he had to spend time to manage like a really huge company, right? So how he have time to do that, right? How he was able to balance and manage everything that perfect. The fact is he cannot. I mean, the news that you read is probably half truth, right? You should ask yourself the other question. What about his wife? What did she do for him, right? The story don't write anything about that. You don't know about that, right? So ask yourself that question. So if you are the guy who have right now about like $140 billion, and you have to cook for your wife, right? You wash dishes for your wife, right? You send her gift on the random days, right? You have tons of work, but you still have to make time to read your wife's manuscript or draft for a novel or something like that, right? Think about that. And would you ask yourself the other question, like, what is she willing to do for me, right? Because I think in life and in any relationship, is about fairness, right? The money part, let's just put it aside. Like, I'm not talking about multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire. It's just being like the fairness of being in a relationship. Because beside, loving each other, right? You sacrifice for each other. But at some point, that gonna start to, I think like we are passionate, in love, probably in the first few years of the relationship. But after that, it have to grow, and we have to learn from each other, know about each other's shortcoming, right? And learn how to adapt, and learn how to, what's the word for it? Like, I know that if my wife doing something I'm not happy about, in the beginning I would fight her for that. So in my first year of marriage, we would fight like crazy, because that's the first time you live in the same house with someone that, have a different way of, doing their thing, right? One person might be more organized than the other, and one person might be, very clean, very nitpicking, or, I don't know, right? You got to learn how to deal with that. So in the beginning, you might fight over some small thing, but over time, if you get past the first or second year, then you start to learning how to deal with those issues. So either you can, put it back in the back of your mind, or you don't want to talk about it. You kind of like, yeah, I know she does something that you don't want to do, but you kind of like ignore it or something like that, right? So in a relationship, that kind of balance, you got to learn how to deal with it. And think about Jeff and his wife, Mackenzie, have been with each other for 25 years, right? So there's a lot of issue that maybe, I don't know, that they might put aside, don't want to deal with it. But it's, it in the back of their mind, some way, somehow, right? And for him to cheating on her, that might be a reason. And what I'm saying is that, you shouldn't expect him to be perfect, because he's already doing his best in manage the company, being, innovator, right? Being a leader for a company, right? So there's something that he cannot do, right? He might be perfect in one area of his life, but there's a certain area he cannot, fulfill that role or something like that. So as a wife, I don't know about his wife, she also have to see it and know that those shortcomings, and willing to deal with it. And I know of I have a relative. He's now very old, and I think he's probably in the 70s. And when he was very rich, he's one of the richest man in Vietnam. I mean, back in the 1960 or 70 or something. He was in the pharmaceutical industry, right? And he would tell a story to my dad, and my dad tell me, and actually I met him. He's in Europe now. So when he was, in the top of the world, he would, spend money, going out, party, meeting new ladies every night, right? And when he went home, his wife, you know what she did? She doesn't complain. She didn't yell at him. She actually, when he came home, she just quietly, like help him take off his shoe, ask him how his day, take care of him, when he got drunk. She, make sure that, I don't know. She take care of him very well, even though he did not treat her well at all. When he's at the top of the world, like, he was the richest guy, he wouldn't worry about coming home early, eating dinner, right? That's not his priority. He's meeting his friend, he meeting his acquaintance, his business client, right? He do all of that, right? Drinking, meeting, I don't know. He might have some extra, have an affair or mistress or something. That's understandable. And I think his wife probably know about that, but she would let it go. But when he came home, she actually treat him very good, and that is something that he tell me. When, now that his wife passed away, he missed her. And the reason why is that he can have money, he can have everything, but he cannot find a lady like that, right? If you are a richest guy and you do all of that, of course, you're not perfect, right? You're not a perfect husband, I would assume that there's a certain area you're not perfect. You came home and your wife yelling at you and screaming at you. Think about that. You have a ton of money in your pocket. Why you have to deal with all that issue, right? So when you introduce money into the equation, now the man think differently. Because what does she do to bring to the table? If the man is the one who make money for the household, right? He make a lot of money, right? He do all of the business thing. He bring money, and his wife not doing nothing at home. And when he came home, she yelled at him. Of course he did something wrong, but at the same time, the wife don't see that, and if the wife is not treating him well, it's easy for him to cheating on her, or getting divorced, or I don't know, right? So I think it's the opposite. Like, being fair in a relationship mean what? The other side, they have husband and wife, right? The wife have to understand and trying to do something that make her better. Now, there's some people saying that, the wife, you're just using your husband money trying to go to salon, have haircut, try to have a makeover, make sure that you look good, which is a good idea, right? Because you want to make yourself look better, right? So that your husband attracted to you, like when you first met. But that's only half of the equation. Because keep in mind, if you are the husband who make a lot of money and your wife is spending it, think about that. On herself, think about that. It doesn't look good on the wife, right? Because if the man is a smart guy, he won't think it's fair, right? Being fair in a relationship mean what? Mean that both have to contribute something to a relationship. Cannot be one side, right? If the wife make more money than the husband, of course the husband gonna feel bad about it, right? And then if the wife came home and the husband was yelling at her for staying late for work, right? Then the wife would more likely to cheating on her husband because she do all the work, right? And the other person don't do anything. So being fair here mean what? Both sides understand what are they willing to sacrifice and understand the other side. Like, if the wife can see that a husband bring money home for her, then she should be more accommodating. I'm not saying like accommodating for someone else to cheating on them, but in a way, not like yapping or kind of like yelling, because that's not solving anything, right? You gotta see why he does that, right? Maybe I'm not looking good. I'm not, I need a makeup, to make myself look better or something, right? But that's a balance thing, But at the end of the day, what the man wants, I'm just talking on a perspective of, of a male perspective, is that when they in a relationship, what they want is that a wife, someone who can take care of family, someone willing to, help raise a family, right? Take care of the household while the man was like handing out the business outside. Of course, at some point, the man have to share responsibility at home as well, right? But keep in mind that he had to take care of the major part of the society. Like his role is to the breadwinner, right? He have to make more money than the woman and bring home, right? So both have to sacrifice in some way, somehow, and learn how to talk with each other. I think this is kind of like overused word, like communication, but I think it's important to talk to each other and ask why, right? I mean, if your husband is not happy, make sure that you know why. Just because you see your husband keep sending you gift when he's in his business trip or something, it does not necessarily mean that he really loved you. You gotta know the reason behind it. I'm not saying that you're gonna doubt every time that you receive a gift from your husband, or vice versa from your wife, or whatever, whoever, right? You gotta see on both sides. Is there something that you did for that person that make that person appreciate the contribution that you did? Because it usually go both way, right? If you don't do anything and you expect everything, like you don't do anything in a relationship and you expect the other person to keep buying you gifts and stuff, think about the other person's perspective. Do they want to do that? I mean, if they do it because they have to, eventually they don't want to and they're gonna live, right? Gonna leave you. So I think at the end of the day, I think when you are in relationship, and especially in in marriage, especially when there's money involved, when you are multimillionaire or billionaire, right now, most of us are not. So that's a good thing. The money is not introduced to the equation, so that's a good thing. Then we need to learn how to deal with each other's shortcoming, right? How to communicate better and know that we have to sacrifice something before we can expect people to do something for you, even husband and wife, right? If the wife wants something from the husband, make sure the wife aware that she willing to sacrifice something or willing to do something for the husband. Because if she does that, then eventually the husband willing gonna give in, and vice versa, right? It's gonna be some kind of like back and forth in terms of like who willing to give in for what. Because you're not gonna get your way all the time. If you always get what you want all the time, something wrong in the relationship, because that's a one side thing. Think about the other side. If they continue to give in, at the end of the day, they're gonna sick and tired, being, being a giver. At some point, you're gonna get tired of it, and you just throw in the towel. And I'm talking about one of the, people that I know. There's a couple, one of my relative, and they are with each other for a really long time. They are old now, but at the end of now they near the end of their life, but they decide to get a divorce, and people asking why, right? I mean, you are very old now. Why you want to divorce? It's too late. But they had to deal with each other problem for so long, and one of the person of the two have to endure the abusive, kind of like one person is always taking, one person is always giving, right? It's not balancing. So one person, it just feel like they giving it too much. Now that person don't want to do that anymore, and they want out of the relationship. But keep in mind, if you wait too late, then it's just sad for both, right? You drag it on for too long, right? I mean, both of them are not cheating on each other, but they have to withstand each other for that long until now to break up, right? Some people, they don't do that. They're kind of cheating on each other. So I think the relationship is tough. I mean, you never know, right? I mean, you have two people who come from different background, different personality, different habit. Think about that. When you get married, you're already 20 something, right? So you already build some habit when you were young, and until you in college and things like that, and you put them together in the same household, and you expect them to live until they were 60 and 70. Think about that. 40 50 years together. Think about that. And they never trained to how to deal with each other problem, right? I think the society put you in a spot where it's really difficult. I'm not sure how people does it, but as you know, the divorce rate in the United States is 50%, right? Maybe a little bit better now, I don't know. But in other countries it's better. Because what? Because the wife afraid to get a divorce. That's the main reason, at least for the people that I know back in Vietnam, because they depend on each other some way somehow, and they don't want to get a divorce. But in here, United States, it's fair, right? The woman, they can live on their own, right? They don't need a man for them to be able to raise a family. They can adopt a child, right? And when for two people, when you're saying that you expect them to to keep the same relationship and fall in love with each other like crazy for 40 year or 50 year, that is just wishful thinking. I think that there's a period of time where you have to deal with each other problem, and if you can get over that period of time, understand each other more, then you're gonna withstand the difficulty. You're gonna but during that period of time where you guys have problem and you guys don't deal with that problem, then either you guys gonna get divorced or one of you gonna cheat on the other, right? I think I saw that. At least I saw it with my friend. Some of my friend, and people like older than me, right? Some of my relative, and in United States, you can see that if you are a billionaire, you don't want to get a divorce. It's expensive, right? I mean, it's a sad story for Jeff. he has $140 billion fortune. Now he had to split it up, right? It's costly. So when you're a billionaire, you're gonna be smart like Trump. He probably have some prenup or something, right? So that kind of thing, when you introduce money into a relationship, it change everything. And what I was saying, I was thinking about one of the point I was saying. Um, hey Tuấn Anh, hey T, hey Lộc. So yeah, I mean, that's what life is, and people's when they first get married and everything is like rosy, And one thing I notice is this, and I don't know if it's true or not. If you see in a relationship and you see that one person appear to be too perfect, usually it's fake. Because there's problem behind the scene that you don't know about. There's a few couple that I know. My wife keep telling me the husband was so perfect. He did this to her, his wife, who do this and that. And then later on, she tell me the story behind the scene that the husband was mistreating his wife and do other thing behind the scene. You never know, right? So no one is perfect. That's why the topic for today I put in there. Don't expect like anyone is perfect. When you in a relationship, you're in a marriage, right? You gotta deal with each other. I always say shit. I'm gonna be real here, right? Everyone have shit that they have to deal with. They have own demon. They have problem, right? When you bring into a relationship, not to saying that some people they probably have previous wife or husband, or they have a bad breakup or bad upbringing, right? So those are the baggage they bring to a relationship, right? So those things when you married to to them, I'm just saying there's something in the other person life that might affect you, right? Even though that you expect that person to be perfect, but you cannot. These things that it's just life, right? Nothing is perfect. When you bring two people together, it's never gonna be perfect. Not that I ever seen perfect. And I think the couple that lasts the longest, I think that's the couple is like is not too much of everything. You know what I'm saying? Like they love each other and they respect each other, but not like showing some crazy stuff like with buying flower like crazy in every Valentine, something like that. Usually I don't see those couple who last until like 60 years, 70 years they does that, right? They treat each other in a different way, they respect in a different way, and they was able to withstand or deal with each other shit, you know. But for those couple that you seeing, oh, every time they're gonna buy me something, surprise gift or something like that, wait to hear the story behind it, okay? And don't just compare this person with that person. Every couple are different, right? Ask yourself, have you done something for the other person before you asking that person to do something for you, right? It have to be fair. If you're willing to sacrifice something for the other person have to see that. And if that person don't see it, then that person is either stupid or not worth your time or your effort, right? But if you always asking that person to do something for you and you never give, so trust me, at some point that person gonna leave you. That's fair and square. That's life, right? Just being fair here, right? And also especially for a woman, right? You want to make sure you look good. Make sure you keep up your look. Make sure you rekindle your relationship with your husband. Don't let yourself go. Like when you have a kid and you just like don't take care of yourself anymore. I think that's kind of dangerous too in a relationship, because two people, you gotta have to keep maintaining, become better. As time goes by, don't just let yourself go, because if that's the case, then look at the relationship, the balanced relationship. If one person keep improving, keep getting better, and the other person keep falling behind, not doing well, Think about it. The person who getting better keep having pulling the other person up. But at some point, that person gonna get tired. Say, I'm always trying to be better, but the other person is always trying to falling back to bad habit, right? So that kind of thing. Make sure you always keep up. Make sure you doing well, willing to sacrifice in a relationship. I think that speak volume, like the story I told you earlier about the wife of a very rich man, right? My relative, she would treat his husband very well, even though the husband mistreated her. He's one of the richest guy, and when he came home, the wife is just don't mention about anything that he did wrong. Take care of him when he's down, right? That's very important for a man. When you are down, and your wife help you to bring you up, he will remember that, whatever that is. He will remember you for that. Okay, guys. Just a few thoughts about the news I read.